Is the SM7B really worth the $200 plus extra dollars more than the SM58? In today's video, I'm going to break down why this mic is more expensive, what the sound quality difference is, and do a direct comparison between the two so you can figure out if you should buy it or not. Let's hop in. Hello, fellow music makers. It is Maddie, your maestro of music production, and today I'm going to dive deep into these two really quality microphones. The SM58 and the SM7B have been the industry standard for so many different types of instruments and so many recording studios for so long. It's time to dive deep and find out the differences between the two. So at the time of filming this video, the Shure SM58 comes in at $99, and the Shure SM7B comes in at $400. I bought both of these for my personal studio used, and I'd recommend you do the same. Facebook Marketplace has these for sale for sure. Reverb.com is also a great place you can check out to find used deals. Now, if you clicked on this video, you're probably interested in learning music production and making your home studio sound the best that it can. Well, you've definitely come to the right place because I make videos every week exploring that exact topic so that you can learn how to make better sounding music. If you're interested, hit the subscribe button below so you don't miss a thing. To start off the comparison, I'm just going to talk about my personal experiences with each mic and what I think each mic is suited for. I'll do a direct comparison of just my vocals, then I'll do a direct comparison of an acoustic guitar, then I'll talk about the results that I heard and what my final conclusion will be. And at the end of this video, you'll find out what the actual differences are between the two mics, and you'll find out whether the SM7B is really worth the extra $300 in price. Starting out, I'm going to keep this in the frame because this is what I'm recording my vocals with, but the SM58, let me talk about this bad boy. If you do any type of music, even if you're just starting out, I recommend the SM58 as your first microphone to buy. Any type of live venue that you go to, any type of professional stage setting is gonna have an SM58. It is just that good, and that's the standard. An SM58 is really great for recording purposes as well, and it only being $100, maybe $60, $70 used, it is absolutely essential to have in your arsenal. The SM58 is built like a rock. It's going to be almost impossible to actually destroy it. My SM58 has some dents, it's seen some falls, but that's totally fine. It is still working 100%. And that's just what happens with a well-built machine like this. I also use the SM58 to record high transient sounds like live drums or percussion. Because it's a dynamic microphone, actually both of them are, it's really good at taming some of those really high transients like screaming vocals or loud tom hits or even loud snare hits. I'll still use this microphone to record it even though I have both available to me. What's also great about the SM58 is you can take off this mic cover to get a little bit less muffled of a sound. I'll show you what I mean. Voila, you have an SM57. So if you're thinking about buying an SM57, you can just buy the 58 and there you go. The SM58 is really good, and I would highly recommend it. If you clicked on this video, you probably already have one. You're probably just interested in if you should upgrade to the 7B. Now let me talk about the 7B, then we'll get into our direct comparison. So, the 7B is a fantastic microphone. There is a reason that you see it in a multitude of podcasts. There is a reason that you see it in a multitude of music studios. It is really great. Michael Jackson recorded multiple albums on this microphone, and if it's good enough for Michael Jackson, it's probably good enough for you. Whenever I record spoken vocals or rap vocals, this is my go-to microphone. There's something about it that captures the essence of the artist voices that I work with really, really well. For male vocalists especially, this is one of my go-to microphones. Just like the SM58, the 7B is a dynamic microphone, which means it does a really good job of getting rid of all of the extra noise in the room. It is a cardioid pattern, which means anything back behind the microphone, like right here, isn't going to get picked up, which is great for noisy rooms and rooms with a lot of echoes. This is my go-to vocal recording mic whenever I'm on the road. If I don't have a full studio with all of my acoustic treatment, I'm going to get better results by singing directly into the microphone here because of the noise cancellation and the noise reduction that it has as a dynamic microphone as opposed to a condenser microphone. I also use this in all of my YouTube video audio. As I said, the spoken voice just sounds really good coming from this microphone. And I also don't have to worry about clipping because, once again, it's a dynamic microphone. It does really well with those harsh transients. Although I don't use the 7B for my drums or percussion, I do use it a lot for the voice, which arguably is the most important thing to get right in the recording stage. Now let's take a look at the direct comparison. For this first one, I'm going to show you the SM58 first, then I'll show you the 7B. I tried my best to sing as similarly as I could, but obviously there's going to be a bit of discrepancies in the performances because they're not the same performance, but hopefully you can hear some of the differences between the two.
2,000 years later.
Alright, cool. So I just recorded both sets of vocals, one on the 7B, one on the SM58. Hopefully we can get an idea of what the sonic differences are between the two. I'll play both of them with no effects whatsoever so you can hear the difference between the two. Let's start with the SM58 by itself. We've got our favorite places, we've got our favorite tunes, but yeah, our favorite person has always been you. Alright, let's try the 7B by itself. We've got our favorite places, we've got our favorite tunes, but yeah, our favorite person has always been you. Cool. So some of the differences I'm hearing just right off the bat is the SM58 has a lot more plosives, and plosives are the big burst of air that sound like big bursts of air in the recordings. The SM7B also to me sounds a lot more clear. Now this could be because I held the microphone close like this. Maybe I needed to hold it farther apart, but this is a common problem I run into when I get sent recordings from an SM58. I get a lot of plosives. It sounds less clear than it would have if somebody recorded on a 7B. Take a listen to what I mean. We've got our favorite. That that just doesn't happen on the 7B, and one of the reasons why is this filter, but it's just a higher quality mic that doesn't pick up that as much. Take a listen to that same favorite on the recording. We've got our favorite. It's there. You can tell that I'm saying favorite, but it's not overpowering. Now, there could be a number of reasons for this. There are different performances. Maybe I held the SM58 too close, but as I said before, this is a common problem I see. To me, also, the SM7B has some more high-end information to work with. Now I'm going to mix them as I normally would and put them in with the background vocals so you can hear what everything sounds like together. I'll show you what the difference is between the 7B and the 58. As you'll hear, once I start adding effects, some of those plosives, some of that more muddiness in the 58 is going to start to shine out a little bit more. It's harder to remove that after the fact with processing. So let's hear what the difference would be. Let me show you the result for both of them after EQ and whatnot. Let's start with the 58, and then halfway through I'll switch to the 7B. We've got our favorite places, we've got our favorite tunes, but yeah, our favorite person has always been you. Cool. Now, let's listen to both of them in the context of the mix. I'll do the same thing as before. You can hear everything with the background vocals. I'll mix them so that you can hear them a little bit more prominently. I'll have them a little bit louder than I normally would in the mix, just so you can hear them. We'll start off with the 58, and halfway through we'll switch to the 7B once again. We've got our favorite places, we've got our favorite tunes, but yeah, our favorite person has always been you. In my opinion, the SM7B sounds more bright. There is some more high-end information to start. And if you look at the EQ differences, I mean, I tried to get them to sound as clean as I could, as similar as I could, but the fact is they're going to sound different because they're different microphones. I added more high-end information to the 58, but I hear more high-end information in the SM7B. The SM7B also I had to cut less low-end from than this one. This is what I cut here. This is what I cut here. This is just a common factor that I find when people record from the SM58. It sounds more muffled. There's not as much 2K to 8K and even 10K plus. There's just not as much high-end information in the SM58. I also find the SM7B takes processing so much better than the 58. Sometimes when I add too many plugins, then it overwhelms the SM58 and I can't get a good sounding result. As you can see, these subtle changes are all that I needed to make it sit okay in the mix and to make it sound pretty decent. Let's hop in with an acoustic guitar for this same track and see what we can come up with. Now, normally I wouldn't record an acoustic guitar with a dynamic microphone, but I wanted to record another instrument so you can get a better comparison of the two microphones. As I'm getting this set up, I want to make a point that I'm going to record both of them at the same time through different inputs so that we can get the same same take on both microphones so that we can get a better comparison as well. I didn't do that for the voice. This time I'm doing it. Boom.
One eternity later.
Okay. All right, I got both of them done. We'll do the same thing as before that I did with my vocals. First, we'll listen to them soloed. Then I'll add effects so that they sound similar. Then I'll play them in the mix, and you can get a comparison of all three. All right, let's start with the SM58. This is what it picked up. There are no plugins on any of these. This is completely dry. I did pan them left and right, though. Okay, let's take a listen to the 7B by itself. No effects once again on any of these tracks. Cool. So this SM58 seems to be a tad bit louder. I might reduce it by a half decibel. But other than that, the SM7B sounds more mid-rangey to me. The 58 has some more low-end information, around 200, maybe 100 hertz, but it sounds a little bit muddier. I think the same thing is going to happen that happened with my voice, is that I'm just going to have more high-end information with the 7B. But let's add in some EQ, let's add in some basic processing so we can hear it with the rest of the song, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so here they are with some basic processing, some slight reverb, some basic EQ and compression, and you can hear the difference here. I tried to mix them so that they sound the same, and to do that, I had to add some more low end into the SM7B, because once again, the 58 is a little bit more muddy. Let's check out the 58, and then halfway through, I'll switch to the 7B. All right, they are almost indistinguishable for my ears. There are some slight differences, but the only reason is they are so similar is because of the EQ work I did for this one. I added about 1.7 decibels on 270 to make them sound similar. Without that, I think that they sound slightly different, but it's nothing that you can't fix to make them sound the same. Okay, now let's listen to both of these in context with the mix. I'll put them both in the mix and then you can hear it. So I'll do the same thing as before. I'll switch it about halfway through. I've turned them both up more than I might normally would, just so you can hear the difference in what it sounds like. Let's listen.
We've got our favorite places. We've got our favorite tunes. Oh yeah, our favorite person has always been you.
Okay, let's try the 7B now.
We've got our favorite places. We've got our favorite tunes. Oh yeah, our favorite person has always been you.
Cool. There's a little bit of a rhythm problem with that first guitar part in the first half of that chorus, but in the second half, it's totally fine. Just how I played it. No big deal there. So we have compared them directly. We know what the differences are, hopefully a little bit better, between the SM58 as well as the 7B. Now that we've compared both of these microphones, I want to give my thoughts on why this microphone is more expensive. Choose one or the other, I'm going to choose the SM7B. It doesn't make sense for a beginning musician to invest $400 in a microphone like this unless you're really serious about your podcast or your music or what have you, unless you're serious about that serious sound. My biggest problem with the SM58 is the problem I have when I EQ vocals. Vocals are the thing that I work with most, and in my opinion, the most important thing about a professional sounding song. And the fact is, the vocals from the SM7B are going to sound better than the SM58. As you could hear in the recording, all of those plosives, all of that extra low end is going to make it sound worse. Now, for acoustic guitar, you can EQ those things to make them sound a little bit similar. Our ears are very highly tuned and sensitive to human voices, so any discrepancies we hear can affect the final product. On my particular voice, the SM7B sounds way better. On my guitar, it's kind of a toss-up. It depends on what the song needs. I would most likely use the 7B because the mid-range focus is a lot more. For my acoustic guitar, I usually don't want that boominess that I got from the SM58. That extra 100, 200 hertz, those extra couple decibels can mean that my bass gets covered in the mix. If I had to choose, I would be choosing the SM7B for that reason as well. But does that mean that you can't record acoustic guitar on a 58? No way. Does that mean you can't record voices on a 58? Absolutely no way. This is to get the best result possible. So it's really up to you. Is this microphone worth $400? In my opinion, absolutely yes. And as you can see by the plethora of other people that have also bought it, they're probably thinking the same thing. Is this microphone worth $100? Absolutely 100% yes. This is one of my favorite microphones in my beginning musician recommendation. Is this worth the price jump? Absolutely, I think it is 100%. It's super subtle, but as you get more advanced in music production, it's these subtleties that add up to a big end product. If you go in with a little bit too muddy of a vocal mix, it's going to be harder to fix later. If you go in with a more mid-range focused vocal mix, it's going to sound better in the long term. All of these subtleties add up to a better sounding end product, which really is why I started this music production journey. I've always been in pursuit of the best sounds possible. Hopefully this sheds some light on the subject of SM58 versus SM7B. Hopefully you learned something from this, because that's what I'm here for. If you're interested in joining the community, hit the subscribe button down below. And if you learned something from this video, hit the like button, because it takes me a while to make, and hitting the like button helps more people see it, which helps me out, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Maddie, your maestro of music production, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.